So the hybrid training style has a plethora of benefits. You get overall functionality, it's a less rigid training approach, and it creates a well-balanced physique. These are just a few examples of some of the benefits that we get from training hybrid. And what hybrid means is you have multiple modalities of training. For me, that equals calisthenics as my base, running as something that I use multiple times per week, and weightlifting as well. And before we get into the video, my name is JD. I'm a 40-year-old hybrid athlete and personal trainer. Like I said, I use calisthenics, running, and weightlifting as my preferred modalities of training. Also, before we get into the video, I want to thank everybody. We hit 20,000 subscribers. I can't remember if I mentioned this in my previous video, but huge accomplishment. Appreciate everybody. For those of you who are new to the channel, new to the community, welcome. And we're going to be talking about how to optimize our body, how to optimize our physique, mainly optimizing our performance past the age of 40. Now, if you guys are in your 30s, your 20s, you guys can find some value in this information as well. This information works for everybody, but I'm really talking to the guys who are in their 40s, in their 50s, and beyond. But today I don't just want to talk about the benefits to hybrid training. I actually want to talk about some of the problems that I've dealt with over the years when it comes down to being a hybrid athlete. So one thing that you might think about when you think about being a hybrid athlete is somebody who's a practitioner of many modalities of training, but a master of none. I disagree with this perspective. I tend to notice that most hybrid athletes lean heavily to one modality of training, and they use the other modalities as a supplement or just something that they enjoy doing in their pastime. Ultimately, I think how far you take your training is a combination of a few things. Number one, how hard you work, how specific you train on whatever that movement practice is, and also how naturally gifted you are when it comes down to that movement practice or that sport. When I think about the ultimate hybrid athlete, I think about somebody like Bo Jackson, somebody who dominated on the football field, who dominated in the baseball diamond, and also somebody who was a dominant presence when it came down to something like track and field as well. Not only did Bo Jackson have a good work ethic, he also had elite genetics. And this shows that different sports, different training styles can carry over into different athletic feats. Now, the background footage that I'm showing you guys in this video is basically a full week's training for me. Everything that I do in training, from running, from calisthenics, from weightlifting, you guys are getting it all as B-roll here, but let's continue the conversation. So I don't just want to give you an example of somebody like Bo Jackson, who is probably the elite athlete of all elite athletes. I can give you some more personal examples of athletes who I've trained with or athletes who I know, or even give you some examples of my own trials and tribulations as being a hybrid athlete. So I have one friend, he's an elite power lifter. And, from what I understand, he's a natural, doesn't use any drugs. He can deadlift like 700 pounds. He can squat close to 600 pounds. And I think he benches like 330. The guy's probably about 225 pounds. I think those qualify as elite numbers. But one thing about this guy is he also has ran a full marathon before. So even being a elite power lifter, somebody who's super strong, who carries a lot of body mass, he challenged himself to become a marathon runner, and he was successful at that. Now, is his mile times elite when it comes down to being a marathon runner? No, it's not. Is running marathons conducive for powerlifting? No, it's not. At least not from a physical standpoint. But from a mental standpoint, I would argue that running marathons and powerlifting actually could be a good combination, just because it teaches you to push through your limits. It also teaches you how to humble yourself as a beginner in a new movement practice. And having that humility is going to help you in a movement practice that you already do. Now, for me, I prioritize calisthenics over everything. Calisthenics is my bread and butter. Calisthenics, when it comes down to me training seriously, was my first love, and it's something that I still get a ton of joy from. I actually get more joy training calisthenics than I do training anything else. Now, when it comes down to weightlifting, that's actually something that I don't necessarily enjoy too much, but I started incorporating a lot of weighted movements, not only because you can't really build a solid lower base, you can't really build a solid lower body using calisthenics alone. You need weights, you need added resistance, but also because certain weightlifting movements and certain accessory movements, when it comes down to, dumbbell, barbell movements, are actually going to increase your strength and help your calisthenics out. Now, if I was to say that I had a second love, I would say my second love would be running. I really enjoy running. The runner's high is real. I feel like every time I run over a 5-mile clip, I start to get that runner's high. Now, as much as I think that running can be an asset to keeping your body in a certain type of condition, making sure that you keep your weight in check, I also think that it can also be a hindrance as well. And what I've noticed for myself, because I do like to do a lot of these longer runs, I might go for a 8-mile run, a 10-mile run. I've even, participated in some half marathons. I've noticed that once my runs get over about 5 miles, it really starts to eat away at my muscle mass. And I notice myself looking more flat, more flabby after those longer distance runs. Now, since these longer distance runs are a little bit less than optimal when it comes down to my calisthenics goals, I did a 8.5-mile run the other day with about 1,100 feet of elevation. The next day I went out and trained calisthenics. I felt extremely weak. Now, because of that, am I going to stop doing these runs? No, I'm not going to stop doing these runs. What I've actually done is I've started to adjust. And this is one of the beauties of being a hybrid athlete, is that every single training session is basically a opportunity to collect more data. You're learning something about your body each and every day, and each and every time you go out and practice one of these movement practices. A lot of times, one of these movement practices gets in the way of the progress of another. So readjusting our training program and finding that perfect balance is something that we're always going to be trying to do. One thing I've noticed over the years, if you guys have been following my calisthenics journey, I've been in the game for about 9 years, coming up on 10 years of training calisthenics. And one thing I know for a fact is nothing stays still. That's one of the universal laws, is that everything is in movement. So there's no way to have a program that you just keep for the long haul. You're not going to keep a program that's going to be relevant in 5 years. The program that you're doing today is not going to be relevant in more than likely 6 months. That is if you're looking to make progress. So finding balance and making adjustments is a necessary when it comes down to being a hybrid athlete. Readjusting training programs, tweaking things along the way, that's not for everybody. It almost takes a mad scientist type personality to want to put yourself through this constant change. Hybrid training isn't for everybody, but if hybrid training sounds like it's something for you and you guys would like some help programming or help along your journey as a hybrid athlete, getting started with your movement practice, go ahead and hit my website. That's hybridathlete40.com. You guys can book a consultation on there. I'm also working on a gymnastics rings program. I already have a hybrid 12-week training program available as well. So book that consultation and I can help you get started on your journey. Also, if you guys are new to the channel, I was just looking at some analytics the other day. It says 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and if you found value in this video, give it a like, share it with somebody else that you think might be able to find some value as well. Hope you're doing well. Peace.